So as we start looking at 2021 and weddings in 2021, what does it look like with COVID, with this pandemic? How is that going to affect those weddings? That's the topic of today's video. Not really a witty or funny hook, or it is a global pandemic. So let's just start. What's up, guys? My name is Dave with Amari Productions. If this is your first time here, we are a small creative studio based in Southern California. I've been filming weddings for the last 10 years. I've been a part of well over 1,000. So on this channel, you can find everything from some of our best wedding films and wedding planning and advice and tips, all the way to BTS, the daily vlogs of running a small, growing creative studio. So whether you are engaged, planning your wedding, or dreaming of your wedding, or you yourself are a photographer, videographer, filmmaker that would rather do that for a living than work the traditional 9 to 5, hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, so you know every time that we post, or if you know anyone that fits either of those categories, share this channel with them. Okay, hopefully that wasn't too long of an intro. We'll find out in post. Jumping into the topic at hand today, what will your 2021 wedding look like? Whether you were postponing from 2020 to 2021, have always been planning on getting married next year, or recently got engaged and are looking at whether or not to get married in 2021 or 2022. And let's start off with the question that I'm sure is on the top of everyone's mind. Will I have to postpone? Now, I'm going to answer all of these questions with probabilities because nobody can see into the future, but I have been doing this internally with our own staff going all the way back to March. Every single week I've been updating our staff, and obviously for our own projections, I need to have the clearest, strongest understanding of where things are, where they're headed, and when they'll get there. So I've been using everything from news articles, data from CDC, from the WHO, that's a band. The WHO? From the World Health Organization. And then actually one of my biggest sources of kind of intel for trying to lay out when things will get back to normal is watching what watching what large companies and universities are saying to their staff and their students, because you have to figure these people, these organizations have a lot of money in the game, have the resources to find and connect with and study and understand the data to make the decisions they need to make for their own financial success. So when a company like Twitter updates their staff and says, June 2021 is when we're projecting you to be fully back in office, or remember back in March and in April, even that early, universities were talking about fall semester being canceled or being different. And if you remember, back at that time, people were like, wow, it's just gonna be 2 months and we'll be fine. Why are you talking about Thanksgiving break and kids going home and not coming back? Crazy. But obviously, as we can see now that we're living it, they had the resources, they had the tools to really understand the likelihood of where this thing was headed. So that's actually one of my biggest sources of information as I build out this projection. I asked the biggest question, and then I went into my explanation for how I got my data, didn't answer it. Wow, that was a cliffhanger. So let's start with that first question. Will you have to postpone your 2021 wedding? I do not believe at this time that you will have to postpone your 2021 wedding. I also should probably tell you exactly when this time is, because things are changing every single day. It is October 16th. As of October 16th, I do not believe anyone with a 2021 date will be forced to postpone their wedding. I think the likelihood of that happening, for the most part, I'll give you this asterisk in a second, the likelihood of that happening is very close to 0%. If you are getting married in January, February of 2021, I might assign a 5 to 10% likelihood, because we are seeing in Europe right now, and we're starting to see the beginning in the States of a third peak starting to build. That was predicted to build as well, to correlate with flu season. But we did have a second peak in the middle of the summer, and we didn't see anything shut down. We saw some states and municipalities go back in terms of their opening, but no one went back to full cancellation of weddings. So I would say January, February, 10% chance, March on, no, you will not be forced to postpone your wedding. But here is what has changed for me in the last couple weeks in my own internal projections for 2021. If you are having a wedding in the first half of the year, through the end of May, maybe even as late as the end of June, will there be some type of leftover or continuing regulations or parameters that you have to take into consideration? You know, restrictions on indoor versus outdoor, on size, on distancing, on buffets versus plated, like all these little things. Will there be stuff left by May or June? I now think the likelihood of that is higher than it was the last couple weeks ago. Up until a couple weeks ago, I would have said like the chance of that was very, very small. I would say the chance now of there being some type of something left over is noticeable. I don't think it's probable yet, so I don't think it's over 50%. So I would say it's probably at 20-25% chance for weddings through May, through maybe even as late as June, we'll have some type of continuing restrictions or regulations that you have to take into account when you are putting the final touches on your wedding plans. Now, if your wedding is in the back half of 2021, July and further, I think the likelihood of there being anything left to tweak your wedding is probably close to zero. Now, the one thing is, by the time that happens, you know, we'll have been well over a year since this all started. So there may be new norms, even for weddings later next year. Once everything is passed and things are back to normal, there's still, like, there could be new norms. There could just be new norms about people wearing masks if they're high risk, or certain differences about how people serve food, or how weddings indoor versus out. Like, there might be some new norms. There might be some things that stick around even after this, but in terms of having restrictions on your wedding or anything like that, I think back half of the year, 0% chance, close to 0% chance. May, June, April, probably like 20-25% chance. March feels a little bit closer to like a coin flip for me. January and February, I would still project to be in the same situation that we're in now, the same kind of level of restrictions, of guidelines, of parameters that we're in now. I would project as of right now for those to start to peel back even further around the end of February, early March. Could be earlier, could be later. That's my projection still as of October 16th. So industry-wide, like, what will this look like? Whether, you know, maybe you're a fellow vendor, or maybe you just want to get a better picture of like where the wedding industry is going to be, where other weddings are going to be. I am now projecting for the first time, as of a couple weeks ago, I am now projecting a percentage of our weddings through May, a small percentage, maybe 10% of our weddings through May of 2021, to postpone into the back half of 2021 or 2022, and that is new for us. Up until a couple weeks ago, I really thought that we, and I think everyone did, that everyone might still, that we would be done with postponements by the end of this year. I now think that we will see probably 10% or so of our spring 2021 weddings push back, and here's why. Even though I think there's a high likelihood that we'll be fully up and running by May, you have to make the call of whether or not you're going to postpone your wedding a few months in advance. So if we do really hit a third peak, if we have a really bad flu season, you know, coinciding with COVID, we will have couples whose weddings were supposed to be in March, April, May, having to make the call in January, February, March. So that's why I think we will see a small percentage of weddings postponed. So if that's you, if you do end up needing to postpone, you won't be alone. It'll be very tough to postpone if you want to try to stay in 2021. If you do need to postpone a 2021 wedding, I would just try to start preparing yourself for what it would look like to postpone 12 months because of how busy 2021 already is. But yeah, I think industry-wide now we'll probably see around 10% or so of spring weddings move. Now, restrictions and postponements aside, what will planning your 2021 wedding look like? And here's where I need to check in with you. Do you have your core vendors, the vendors that really matter to you? Do you have them booked? Do you have a venue locked in? Do you have your photographer, your videographer, your planner, anybody else that's really important to you? If you don't, you need to get on that immediately, because here is what is happening right now. Unsurprisingly, 2021 is very very busy for everyone in our industry because we have a full year, 2020, just being picked up and dropped on top of 2021. Now, there are some interesting things about this. It seems like there was a trend with venues that when venues were letting couples postpone, they were saying, hey, I'll let you postpone to next year, but you cannot take a Saturday. You need to take a Friday or Sunday or a weekday wedding. So we are seeing a very interesting trend where we're super busy next year, but the breakdown of Saturday versus non-Saturday weddings is very skewed towards like Fridays and Sundays right now. So if you're getting married next year and you still need to pick out vendors and it's a popular time of year, you should still be able to find somebody. This is weird to say this is not normal. You should still be able to find somebody if you're on a Saturday, but you might have a hard time finding vendors if you're on a Friday or a Sunday. So yeah, there's not really a way to get around this by moving your day of week around. You just need to get on it and get your vendors locked in. If you do have your vendors locked in, if they moved over with you from your 2020 wedding or whatever, great. Very happy for you. You're in a good spot. If you are recently engaged and you're still trying to pick your date, before you lock in a date, before you send out save the dates or tell everyone what the date is gonna be, before you sign with a photographer, videographer, venue, I would first try to research all of your core vendors simultaneously so that you can kind of get everybody on the same page within a couple days of each other to make sure that you actually have everyone available that you want before you lock in that date, because there are going to be a lot of couples getting married in 2021 that are going to be disappointed when they go to start booking photographer, florist, cake, videographer, because so many are going to be unavailable. So get on it now, make sure you have it locked in, and if you have the availability to look at 2022 and you're having a hard time finding the vendors you want, be open to moving to 2022. Next, let's touch on guests, because as we were talking about, even though things should be back to normal, the probability of things being back to normal is still very high for like April, definitely May and June. We could still see weddings being postponed, and this is a big piece of why is guests. So if you are still trying to pick your date for next year, make sure you are thinking through the logistics. Ask yourself this: who is it important that I make sure is there? Like, who needs to be there? Is there somebody from, family, friends, whatever? Is there somebody for you or your fiance or a number of people that really need to be there, that would have to fly to be there? And if they would, are any of those people at a higher risk? That is the questionnaire you need to go through, both yourself and your fiance, before you lock in a 2021 date. Because if you go to that questionnaire and you're like, yeah, grandma needs to be there, she's flying out from Ohio and she's grandma, like she's older, I don't know if it's gonna be safe right now if she's on a plane, then yeah, I would recommend the back half of 2021 at the earliest. Or again, you could just play it safe and push to 2022. But I feel like that's really important to touch on, because I could totally see how you could be going through all this work, right? All this logistical work to plan and lock in all these vendors, and then it's not until you've like paid deposits and locked things in and sent out save the dates that like you realize like, oh wow, like all of my family that lives back east is like not gonna be able to fly, with the risks. The next question that I feel like a lot of couples might have going into 2021 is, how is pricing going to be affected? Is it going to be the same? Is it going to be more because people are more busy? Or is it going to be less because the whole industry just lost out on a year's worth of work and is just trying desperately to survive and offering discounts so that they can just get cash flow going again? Here's what I am seeing and hearing in our industry. For the most part, pricing next year is either going to be the same or it is going to be more. Because what I'm seeing from a lot of vendors is, generally speaking, most vendors, especially if it's like a sole prop, they just do, the weddings that they can do every year, they'll raise their prices a little bit every single year. What I'm hearing from those groups is next year they're going to raise their prices even more for a couple reasons. One, they already have so much guaranteed income from all of the couples they moved over, so they have a safety net. Two, the risks generally of raising your prices is lost income, but they already lost the income last year. They've already bitten that bullet and they have the guaranteed income next year. And then three, and this is a big reason, normally at this point in the year they might have 5 weddings booked and be wanting to book 20 more. But right now, they have 20 weddings on their calendar and they only feel comfortable taking 5 more. They only have availability to take 5 more. So knowing that normally they'd book 20 more, but they only need 5 to fill out their year, they've got the leverage now to raise their prices and just wait for the couples that will value them at that new price. So for the most part, I'm expecting pricing to be more expensive next year. What can you do about that? Once again, just get on your vendors as quickly as possible so that if one of your potential vendors is somebody that's considering that, you can book them before they make that price increase. Now, I do think we will see some vendors that will be offering discounts because yeah, there will be vendors that, you know, their financial situation is different, their calendar is different. Maybe they're a type of vendor that instead of postponing, their clients canceled, they did whatever. They might be in a position where they're just trying to get cash flow going again and it might be able to offer you some discounts. But I'd say that's going to be much more rare than the vendors whose prices will be higher. And then the last point to touch on as we talk about how COVID and how this pandemic is going to affect 2021 weddings is 2022. Up until a couple of weeks ago, it really looked like the weddings that were moving from 2020 were going to just wholesale land on 2021. So we'd be doing like 2x the work 2021, and then 2022 would be when things would finally go back to normal for us in the wedding industry. Now, it is my belief that what it will really end up looking like is about 1.7x in 2021, and then about 1.3x in 2022, which for us in the industry would be great. It'd be great if we can spread some of this out a little bit, not make it super busy and then like half the work next. Anyways, that's for us, not for you guys. Here's why. One of the things we talked about, you know, couples could end up postponing from the first half of this year. 2021 is already so slammed that they might have no choice but to move to 2022. The other source of this kind of lasting into 2022 and something for you guys to consider, as I've already touched on, is generally the most popular time for engagements is the holiday season. And so that's why my belief, at least here in SoCal, that's why we see our busiest months of the year, you would think, are right in the middle of summer. They're not. The busiest months of the year for us are September and October. My belief is that's because so many people get engaged over the holidays and then they have to decide, you know, Christmas time. Do we want to have a shorter engagement and try to get married at the end of this year's wedding season, so like a 9-10 month engagement, or do we want to have a much longer, like 16-month engagement and get married in the spring? And so most couples are like, I don't want to wait a year and a half to get married. I also don't want to try and pull this whole thing off in 4 or 5 months. So let's do 8 or 9 months and land on September and October. For 2021, those couples getting engaged are getting engaged next month and the month after that, in the middle of what is projected and what is starting to be the third peak of this pandemic. So if you're getting engaged right in the middle of the third wave of this pandemic and you have to make that call of like 8 or 9 month engagement, a little bit shorter or a little bit longer, whereas most years couples are like, I don't want to wait that long, and so they'll try to figure out how to make it work in 8 or 9 months, which is totally fine. That's what we did 8 months. I think this year what we'll see couples say is, why would I rush when there's like still a chance? You know, there's like things are still up in the air. Yes, things would absolutely be fine by then. Why would I rush? Why would I rush? Let's play it safe. Let's just wait until 2022. So I think, I do think we will see, it's not necessarily a string of postponements moving some of this extra work to 2022. I think it's just couples that normally would have gotten engaged this year, plan for 2021. I think an inordinate percentage of those, an outlier percentage of those couples will do the longer engagement and push to spring of 2022. So if that's you, you're not alone. But also if that's you, know that, again, you need to jump on booking your vendors, because while you may think, oh, I've got so much time, I can tell you from our own books that our 2022 is way busier than it's ever been. Does that make sense? Like in October, 2 years prior, we've never had this many weddings booked on the books. Obviously, our 2021 is even more insane, but our 2022 is already way busier. I think we've even had a couple inquiries for 2023, which is just, that's crazy. Anyways, if you like this video, let me know. As things continue to evolve and change, I'm happy to do updates on this. I really should have been doing this the entirety of the pandemic. pandemic. I don't know why I didn't think of it until like a month ago. But if you enjoyed this, if you found this helpful, please smash that like button, click the subscribe button, or click this little circle if you haven't already, ring that notification bell so you know every time that we post. If you want to see what it is like at an actual wedding day, behind the scenes of a big old wedding day with the same day edit, no less. But yeah, if you want to go behind the scenes, click this video. And then if you want the algorithm to just feed you a video that it knows you'll enjoy, click this one down here. All right, my name's Dave with Amari Productions. I'll see you guys next time.